Hey people, we're back. We're in Ephesians 1, verse 18, talking about the wonder of who God is, talking about the superlatives of the greatness of God that you will have to open your spiritual eyes to see. We spoke about, the verse tells us to open the eyes of our heart. This is not an academic exercise. It's a heart one. It's an emotional one. It's a deep thinking kind of a week that we're embarking upon. We said yesterday God is immense in all things, especially in the realm and above all of his holiness. He is set apart. Now, a revelation of God's holiness could not just change your life as it did with Isaiah, but it can change you. And if we want to change our lives, we better change ourselves. Don't try and change your life because you're going to exhaust yourself out of your behaviors. Your behaviors come from what you think and how you feel. So if you want to change your behaviors, change how you think and how you feel, and your behaviors will automatically change. Isaiah was never the same again after his experience of seeing God high and holy. I think the problem for us, if we are real with ourselves, is the problem of familiarity. You know, we tend to look at God and we've seen him before. Oh, I know this stuff. I understand. I've heard this before. I've sung the songs about indescribable and how great thou art and all those beautiful things. But sometimes we find ourselves in this place of familiarity. Now, Cain was, one of the guys who hung around with Abel, they were sons of Adam. Adam was bearer of these two children, and they were totally opposite in their perception of who God is. Abel loved God, I presume. He made a great offering, took a lamb, and he offered a sacrifice to God. And God smiled and said, "Thank you, Abel, for your offering." Cain, however, made a legitimate offering, but it wasn't made because of love. It was made because of legality. A vegetable offering in those days was legitimate. It was probably part of the program. They could sacrifice first fruit offerings. His offering was legitimate, but the source from which it was made was wrong. He wasn't offering it because he loved God. He was offering it because he was a legalist and he had to do this thing. This was expected of him. He had to make an offering. And although it was the bad one, in his heart, he was thinking different things. Now, there's a beautiful example of this in Revelation 4, from verse 8 to 11, where the Apostle John is on the island of Patmos, and he sees a great revelation of Jesus. Now remember, John was Jesus' best friend. John was the one who was at his right hand at the upper room. He was the one who said that Jesus loved him more than any of the others. It was like his medal was that he was like the main one that Jesus loved the most. I'm sure he loved them all, but sometimes there are some that you just love a little bit more. And John thought that he was that guy. And John was declaring this in his mind, and he was thinking about it. How wonderful it was to have Jesus as a friend. But then he has this revelation in Revelation chapter 4 of Jesus, not as his friend, but as his king. And as he looks upon the thing, he sees the King of Kings and the Lamb upon the throne. And he says, man, I know that guy. I know him. He's my friend. Man alive. He's not just my friend, but my friend is the King. He's the King of the universe. He's the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. Man, forgive me for the times that I just treated him as another human being. If only I had known the magnitude of who he is and was to me when he was on this earth. Someone who says, your Christian experience will only rise as high as your perception of God goes. Kind of like John. When John saw Jesus high and lifted up, he saw him in heaven in his vision. He had a new perception of reality, of who Jesus really is, and the amazingness of who this King of Kings was. Man, on earth he was my friend, but good night, my friend is the King. Now, familiarity can do a job on us. You know, we become familiar in relationships, we become familiar with our comforts, we're prone to becoming familiar with the things that we have all the time. And one of the tragedies of the church today is this very thing, that we have seen and heard about God for so long. We've heard about him, we've listened to sermons about him, And yet we think, yeah. Heard that before, Trev. Tell us something fresh and new. People, there is nothing, absolutely nothing fresh and new under the sun. God is who He is. He will not change. He will not get lesser or more. He is perfection. And when we contemplate Him, we got to contemplate Him with awe, with freshness, to see every time we hear of God, we got to react as if this was the first time we ever heard about Him, because that's an appropriate response to who God is. He's awful. We should be full of awe for Him every time we sing a song about Him, every time we hear the word of God being preached. That's how it is. I hope you find it that way. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.